I've been telling people I was going to play this game next for almost a full year now. I bought it at release in 2023, and every time I tried to start, something else came up. But I'm here now, and today we are finally talking about Islands of the Caliph, an exploration-focused adventure game with grid-based movement, simple combat, some survival elements, and a lot of Islamic influence. Many older games used real-world religions to ground a fantasy setting, but usually they'd be aiming solely at an American audience and using a relatively dead or exotic religion, Norse or Greek mythology usually, as a background for their fantasy world. And it was often surface level, the kind of color added by a writer who did some research on a topic but isn't a believer themselves. This is a little bit different, using a widely practiced religion and transplanting it into a fantasy universe. It's kind of novel to play a game where the main questline is learning the 5 pillars of Islam and discovering the location of the Kaaba. It veers dangerously close to being an edutainment game or a church game. This is another indie title by a solo developer with a runtime of around 8 hours, and it's available on Steam for just under $10. I picked it up solely on the charms of the graphics and the unique setting. It's keyboard only, and the controls are comparatively simple for the genre, combat especially so. 1 button to attack, 1 button to block. There's a leveling system that feels a bit vestigial. As we level, we accumulate skill points, which we can use at various trainers to grant flat % bonuses. I stopped looking for trainers somewhere around the halfway point, and combat was still leisurely without those extra level ups. One unique thing is the hunger system. Well, the system itself is pretty standard. Scavenge food and eat a few times a day, or else you'll take periodic damage and have a penalty to stamina regeneration. It becomes unique once your character starts learning about the Islamic faith. There's a day-night cycle and a persistent calendar, and we start off during the month of Ramadan. This gives the player an interesting choice. If you can avoid eating during the daylight hours, your character will become more pious, giving us a slew of background bonuses in exchange for slightly diminished combat effectiveness between meals. It's such a simple, realistic twist on an established mechanic that I was pretty gobsmacked. I think this is the first game I've played with fasting as a mechanic. Maybe I'm forgetting one, I don't know. If you know any games with voluntary fasting, let me know in the comments. Quests are handled very old school. We're given a quest log at least, but right from the start there's no real meta guidance on where to go or what to do. For the most part, you explore, talking to everyone you meet and gradually sussing out hints towards buried treasure or dungeons or just falling into quest lines. It provides a real sense of discovery that's so sorely lacking in the modern quest marker driven RPG, but it also has its drawbacks. I was really the thief of my own joy in this one because I completely missed the main quest. The third island we reach is the capital city, and the chief of this island gives us the main quest, to reunite the isolated cities of the archipelago into one unified faction. Unfortunately, I just completely missed his palace. I explored everything in the city, but somehow never found the stairs that led up to him. So instead, I ended up assuming the main questline was given by this random priest, to learn the 5 pillars of faith by seeking out experts on different islands, which I did, taking my time to leisurely explore each island and complete side quests, delving into dungeons that felt like they were missing something. And then, after all that was done, I discovered the main quest, flush with cash, endgame equipment, and having already thoroughly explored everything. So this game became a lot of errand running, boat to boat, island to island, hustling to get back to towns I had already explored, to activate quests that brought me to dungeons I had already conquered. It was a bit frustrating, even more so because it's entirely my own fault. Instead of working those 2 quests side by side, I just retraced my steps for a few hours. At least the story I made is my own, and I suppose that's the beauty of low guidance games. Despite myself, I did enjoy Islands of the Caliph. I most appreciated the vivid art style and the great feeling of exploration as I made my way across the islands. Everything is just different enough that it keeps defying expectations. But there's not too much interesting going on in the story other than the influences it was drawing from, and the main questline mostly just serves to keep you moving across the islands. The easy-to-learn controls are a strong point, since so many of these classic dungeon crawler RPGs have obscure controls that make them difficult to get into by today's standards. On the old pain scale, I'd give Islands of the Caliph a slightly painful. It's a surprisingly relaxing dungeon crawler, and one that you can beat in a single weekend. I'd recommend it. Well, that's all for my 28th review. I've got a couple other short games I'd like to hustle out a review on, so maybe, if we're all lucky, I'll see you again next week. Thanks for tuning in. See you!